What's up guys, it's your man KP67s and I'm back again. I know, I keep saying that every video. Long story short, personal stuff, had to take care of it, but now that it's been taken care of, I'm back making videos again, and we're going to just dive right back into it. We're going to be looking at another character review, specifically in the Bounty Hunter faction, and of the Bounty Hunters I figured since we already did the son, it makes sense to do the father. So we're going to be covering Jango Fett today. So, Jango Fett is a bounty hunter and a scoundrel, which is always a nice little dual synergy to carry, and an attacker like most bounty hunters except for like 2 of them. He is an attacker. So when we look at his stats here, we can see that the agility here is quite high in addition to the strength, and that kind of points you towards, okay, like, you know, he can handle a bit of damage. As well as the fact that he has a little bit of extra survivability, which we'll get into. He also pumps out a lot of damage as well, and here you can see, like, you know, his health isn't very high, but that's kind of okay given his kit. Protection, decent. Speed, it's fine. I could get it a little higher, I'm sure, but slicing takes forever, so probably not for a while. Critical damage, I maxed it out. Potency, I made sure he had a good amount on him. And damage just above 3,000, almost 3,100. Critical chance decently high, 51%. Armor pretty tanky actually for an attacker. Most characters who are attackers usually have lower armor, so that's not too bad. And special survivability and damage is neither here nor there because he does physical damage across the board. So, with respect to his shard location, currently he only has 1 location, and that is in the spin to win packs. I did spin on him, like, you know, besides the Empire, which is like #1 in my eyes, Bounty Hunters would actually come #2. So I was going to support the game, and I was going to be like, you know what, I'm going to spin, I'm going to get Jango Fett. I got all the Bounty Hunters. So, this is the only spot where you can go. He should come into shipments in another couple days, actually. This says 4 days, 12 hours. Usually, from what I've seen, like, you know, give it another couple of days and they will drop him into shipments if you so choose to farm him there. And then a month later, he'll go free to play. So with respect to Jango's gears, his gearing is kind of annoying. He requires 5 Mark III Carbantes, 5 stun cuffs. He requires 4 of the Mark K6 hypo syringes. He requires 2 stun guns. Like, it's a little like, that's a little annoying. It's a little bit of everything, which collectively makes him pretty annoying. But again, that's okay. And his gear 12 pieces also help really shore up the kind of squishiness that he would otherwise have. He really is a character that benefits the most from his stars, so if you're going to leave him at like 3-star gear 11, honestly, it's not worth your time. You really would have to max him to get a full benefit out of him. So that's just something to keep in mind. So, getting into his abilities here, we're going to start with his basic Unscrupulous Gunfire. Deals physical damage to the target enemy, and he gains 15% offense for each enemy suffering a debuff in this attack, and if who he's hitting already has a debuff, he attacks again. So this is a double whammy, as well as the fact that he gains 15 by 5, potentially, if all 5 are debuffed, 75% offense on this attack, which can lead to massive hits. We're talking like 30, 35k, especially with this contract up, which we're going to get into in a little bit. So getting into his first special here, Shrapnel Blast, which is amazing. I love seeing this go off. Deal physical damage to the target enemy and a random enemy. Kind of like Magma Trooper, you kind of hit someone random, kind of like old Daka 2. He inflicts healing immunity and stagger to the target for 2 turns. Now, this is assuming the target even survives. I have seen him hit both attacks on one enemy for 50k apiece, so this attack, in theory, can do up to or more than 100k damage just based on how I modded him. So that's a stupid amount of damage. That's instantly killing Nest. That's instantly killing most things but the tankiest of tanks, which is actually really cool to see. Getting into his second special here, Conflagration, which I actually had to look up that word. I was like, what is that word? It basically is burn everything down, which he does. Inflict burning for 3 turns, and then deal physical damage to all enemies. This attack cannot be evaded. Conflagration on a target character, they lose 25% max health, which stacks if they already had a debuff on them. And in the raid, the raid boss loses 10% tenacity if they were suffering a debuff previously. So, from a PvP PvE standpoint, you inflict burning, which everybody's familiar with R2, which is actually pretty clutch when we get to his leadership. When we'll talk about his leadership in a bit. The lose 25% max health doesn't seem like anything crazy for most characters, but this is clearly built to kind of deal with Darth Nihilus, who just stacks so much health that, you know, if you debuff everybody, he's already like next to impossible to kill. And then for the raids, great, they lose 10% tenacity. Neither here nor there to me, and that's just what it is. So Jango's leader here is anything to get ahead. So this is actually kind of a good blend of things. So scoundrel allies, all scoundrels, which include bounty hunters and, you know, solo scoundrels, old Lando, Stormtrooper Han, whatever, have plus 30 speed, huge in a PvP standpoint. Enemies have minus 20% potency for each debuff on all bounty hunters and minus 40% tenacity. So instead of buffing their own potency, he reduces their opposing tenacity, in addition to reducing their ability to even stick debuffs as more hunters get debuffs. Here's the other clutch part. Enemies that are burning can't gain bonus turn meter. So if he inflicts burning on everybody, this means that it essentially works like days as long as Jango is the lead. They cannot gain bonus turn meter, they cannot just spam turn meter. This shuts down like a Rex squad, a Palpatine squad. Rex less so because they can put tenacity up, but with how much damage these guys do, tenacity up won't really help you. Bounty hunters have plus 35% offense when they have bounty hunters resolve, and so right off the bat, that means that Boba and Jango are going to be hitting like trucks out the gate because they already get bounty hunters resolve. And then finally, when Jango's in the leader slot, there is a contract, and the contract is damage a debuffed enemy 20 times. This sounds intense. Like, you're just like, how the heck am I supposed to hit 20 times? It's not super hard to get the contract off if you have the right combination, and I'll talk about that. And then for the reward, once it goes off, here it is. All bounty hunters gain bounty hunters resolve. Guess what? Now your entire team ignores taunts. Your entire team has now just gained 35% offense, and they gain plus 25 critical chance. There is a ton of damage that can be done here, which is just so crazy. And once Jango and his contract get rolling, you basically roll over whatever you're facing, you know, pending mod equivalency, basically. And we get into his unique here, Notorious Reputation. Jango Fett has plus 100% defense penetration and plus 50 max health. As you can see with the max health, this kind of shores up his otherwise kind of squishy amount of health. He was sitting at 27k, almost 28k for me. Include a 50% chunk of that, and, you know, he's actually pretty decently tanky at health. And then his Zeta actually says that if he defeats anyone during his turn, not an assist, not a counter, if he defeats anyone on his turn, they cannot come back. Straight up. He could use his basic. If his basic kills them, they're dead. They don't come back. At the start of battle, whenever he, and then this is the Mandalorian resolve part, Bounty Hunter's resolve actually, at the start of battle, whenever he defeats an enemy, he regains 100% protection and gains Bounty Hunter's resolve if he already didn't have it. And like I said, Bounty Hunter's resolve, they can ignore taunt, and if defeated, they revive at 100% health, and it is a locked buff, which means you can't get rid of it. God, this feels like I'm reading a novel. There is a lot going on in his kit. It's a little complicated, but mostly geared towards just powering through with damage. And just as a note as well, plus 100% defense penetration is not the same as armor and resistance penetration. Those are two separate stats. Just going back here really quickly, you can see here, this was never actually here before, defense penetration at 0%. So basically, instead of having to worry about armor penetration or resistance penetration, defense penetration just completely negates all defenses, basically. So, as it says, ignores a percentage of enemy's defense. If they're ignoring 100% of an enemy's defense, it doesn't matter how much armor or resistance penetration you're doing the full amount of damage to the character, which is intense. Then finally, getting into Jango Fett's payout. When the contract goes off, what abilities do the bounty hunters get? This is Jango's in this case. Jango gains damage immunity for 2 turns, which cannot be prevented or dispelled, and plus 50% offense. So by the end of it all, he is going to be sitting at plus 85% offense. And he literally cannot be damaged. You can hit him, you can do whatever you want to him. He's literally not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything to him. You can debuff him. Obviously the only thing I think would actually kill him is Annihilate. But if it's not Annihilate, he's not taking damage for 2 turns, which is huge. He is also the only character in the game right now, currently, which has damage immunity. So this is pretty significant at keeping him alive and on the field, and just super annoying for people. So now that we got through that book of a kit, we're going to get into his modding here, and as you can see from his mods, I think I have him modded pretty well in my thoughts. Obviously speed is speed, I can always get it higher, but you want 4 critical damage, 2 critical chance. I know there's a whole debate, is offense better, is critical damage better? In my eyes, because of just how much offense you can stack into this team, it makes sense just to multiply it all by critical damage rather than trying to boost the base and trying to make up for it with, like, less critical damage, more offense. That's the way I see all physical attackers. If you're going to do the whole offense crit damage combination, do it on a special attacker. Because when they do happen to crit, that means that they're just going to hit that much harder, and you want them hitting harder at a baseline anyway, since a lot of characters do not have very high resistance armor in this case. So, speed on the arrow, of course. Critical damage on the triangle, of course. Potency on the cross. You could go offense if you'd like, especially for raids to pump out your damage a little bit more. But for PvE, respect, which is what I prefer to keep him as, potency makes more sense because you want to inflict burning. And then obviously, protection for the circle. I wouldn't recommend health. You could go health, but I like just giving them that extra shell of armor for themselves before they have to start worrying about, oh no, my health's getting whittling down. So that's it. Okay guys, so overall, his uses is that he is a great PvP bounty hunter leader. Obviously, like I am lucky enough to get him up to this point where I can review him for you guys. He destroys everything. Assuming that you have equal mods to your opponent. If your opponent doesn't have you severely outmodded, the bounty hunters will defeat them. Absolutely 100%. I really like running Bosk with Jango in this case because Bosk has that call assist ability, which means that if he uses on a debuffed enemy, you have Boba who can double tap, you have Jango who can double tap, you could clear taunts if you decide to throw Embo in there, you could pop thermals if you have Zam in there, you could, use Dengar if Dengar happens to be stealth, and you can call an assist to get another attack, which could be Boba and Jango, which means that you get another 2 hits. So as a result, getting 20 debuffs and getting his contract off is not super hard in the player's hands. AI might be a different story, but once you get that contract off, you've basically beaten them. It's just a matter of putting them down. But like I said, the biggest flaw here with Jango is that without Gear 12, without 7 stars, he really is not worth building at this time. In my esteem, he's just too squishy. He cannot survive long enough to do very much, especially if he gets targeted down. So so if you're trying to build him, unless you're a big bounty hunter fan, go ahead, build him. But if you're looking for an additional bounty hunter to build, if you're free to play, I would not go after him until he becomes free to play farmable and you can get his stars up, you can get his gear up. Otherwise, gearing him to gear 11 at this point, let's say at 3 stars, 4 stars, you've locked up all this gear, which could be used for other things, i.e. KOTOR. So as a result, it's just putting gear into something that will not pay off for you in the short term. This is a short and long-term game, and that's what people have to remember. So my aspect, if you choose to whale on a character, yes, go for Jango, max him out. He will not be, I personally am not disappointed with him. I have a ton of fun with him. But if you're free to play, don't go ham on his gear. Get him up to whatever gear level you're comfortable with, and then just wait until you can farm his stars. Alright guys, that concludes this review. I hope you guys liked it. Again, nice return to form for me. So if you guys like the video, please leave a like on the video. Please leave a comment. Subscribe for more, obviously. And I might have a little surprise for everybody once we get to the magic 1,000 subscribers. So hopefully if we get there, then I can do something special for everybody, and then we can take it from there. Alright guys, have a good day.